I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
Reaction to that video?
If you're looking for a lesson in policy versus identity politics, then look no further.
I'm going to choose my words carefully, partly because I'm appearing as secretary, so I can't talk about campaigns. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to leave aside the strangeness of trying to prove your manhood by putting up a video that splices images of you in between oiled up, shirtless bodybuilders.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
When asked to comment on the ridiculousness of a Republican candidate for president unleashing an anti-LGBTQ campaign as some anecdote to the woke mind virus, Secretary Pete Buttigieg delivered a masterclass on how to respond.
Reaction to that video?
You know, I'm going to choose my words carefully, partly because I'm appearing as secretary, so I can't talk about campaigns. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to leave aside the strangeness of trying to prove your manhood by putting up a video that splices images of you in between oiled up, shirtless bodybuilders, and just get to the bigger issue that is on my mind whenever I see this stuff in the policy space, which is, again, who are you trying to help? Who are you trying to make better off? And what public policy problems do you get up in the morning thinking about how to solve? You know, we're focused as an administration on how to get things done to make people better off. I spent my week traveling around the country to places that are benefiting from infrastructure funding. We were in Appalachia, in an eastern Kentucky community that's been wiped out by floods repeatedly, and we're bringing them highway funding that's going to help them not only improve the road but also improve the dam and protect them from floods in the future. A few weeks ago we were in North Dakota where there's a railroad crossing that was a community headache for decades, and thanks to President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure funds we finally have the resources to do something about it, and we're going to make that better and have it not be a problem holding back first responders. These are the kinds of problems that most of us got into government, politics, and public service in order to work on. And I just don't understand the mentality of somebody who gets up in the morning thinking that he's going to prove his worth by competing over who can make life hardest for a hard-hit community that is already so vulnerable in America.
Now, if you're wondering what this is in reference to, here's a wee peek at the campaign ad Ron DeSantis' team put out.
I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
If Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses.
That is correct.
In the future, can transgender women compete in Miss Universe?
Yes.
Make America great again.
Psych!
Has shut down drag.
Just produced some of the harshest, most draconian laws that literally threaten trans existence.
Congratulations, Ron DeSantis. Mission accomplished. You win.
Right, because what says anti-LGBTQ macho man, then comparing himself to fictional serial killer Patrick Bateman, a man who listens to Whitney Houston while killing women as a means to cope with his own toxic masculinity. DeSantis, Trump, Republicans in general, their lifeblood is fear-mongering. It's their only strategy to conjure up these culture wars because they have no solution to actual issues that are impacting the American people. Buttigieg outlined this point recently in front of a right-leaning crowd that applauded in agreement.
Obviously there are issues with the border and with migration. But these are the kinds of stunts you see from people who don't have a solution. Where have these leaked? Governor DeSantis was in Congress. Where was he when they were debating immigration reform? What have any of these people done to be part of the solution? When you have a course of action, as some of the folks here speaking up about an issue, exercising their First Amendment rights have done, or in elected office, it's another to just call attention to a problem because the problem is actually more useful to you than the solution, and that helps you call attention to yourself. And that's what's going on. And the problem, of course, it's one thing if that was just people being obnoxious, but human beings are being impacted by that. You flee a communist regime in Venezuela, you come here, and then somebody tricks you, somebody using Florida taxpayer money for some reason, tricks you into going from Texas to Massachusetts. It's not just ineffectual, it is hurting people in order to get attention.
This ad, if you can call it that, which was posted the same day the Supreme Court ruled that businesses may choose not to serve LGBTQ people if its owners feel their religious beliefs are violated, is par for the Republican Party at the moment. Because when they're not making excuses for the numerous indicted cult leader-in-chief, they're taking credit for Democratic policy which they initially opposed because they have nothing else.
Well, this bill, this $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, isn't true infrastructure. Like, if we're going to do infrastructure, let's do infrastructure. Less than 10% of it, $110 billion, goes to, quote, surface transportation, and of that, $70 billion is public mass transit, leaving you only $40 billion, or 3 or 4%, to go to roads and bridges, traditional things that Americans, really desperately need in their communities. And so there are 42 new taxes in the infrastructure legislation as well, and these are just things I can't support.
Welcome aboard. Look, this is good policy, and it's true that not every member of Congress was there with us when we were working to get this done. And it turns out that is no barrier to them being glad to see that funding come to their districts. I think because this was good policy all along. And look, partisan politics get in the way sometimes. Although we're proud of the fact that this is a bipartisan bill, that a number of Republicans were willing to come across and work with Democrats and work with the president to get this done. Look, a good project is a good project, and we're not going to hold it against the constituents of any member who was short-sighted enough to vote no on the infrastructure or the broadband or the clean water pipes that they are now so quick to join us in celebrating.
You mentioned that you have been traveling around talking about and helping to unveil projects that are coming up because of President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law. This week, we saw a poll that showed that 34% of Americans, that's it, just 34% of Americans approve of his handling of the economy. 7 in 10 say economic conditions are poor. Why is it that so many Americans don't seem to be feeling the benefit from Biden's economic policies that you're talking about?
Well, look, we're seeing extraordinarily low unemployment, some of the most job creation under any president ever. We're seeing, by the way, with that also unusually high rates of job satisfaction. We've seen inflation falling. We've seen manufacturing returning to the U.S. Now, obviously, a lot of effort and a lot of money goes into negativity to try to get people focusing on other things, like some of the things that we're talking about in the culture wars that certain figures are bringing to the fore again and again. I think because they don't want to talk about the economic work that they're doing, and they certainly don't want to talk. If we're talking about House and Senate Republicans, why they voted no on the infrastructure package, the majority of them, although we appreciate the Republicans who crossed over to work with us. Most House and Senate Republicans and state legislative Republicans, they don't want to be dwelling on why they said no to $35 a month caps on insulin or any of the other issues that are really affecting people. The other thing I've noticed in the way these things get digested in the public and in the media is when something is unambiguously good, it gets dramatically less attention. That's part of why we've been hitting the road, to highlight the really good work that's going on. Work that's going on in terms of long-term infrastructure improvements, short-term successes too, like the work that Governor Shapiro led in Pennsylvania with partnership from our department to get I-95 back up and running in record time after it was taken out in a fiery and tragic crash. These are the kinds of problem solving that frankly, there's some folks in Washington for sure who don't want to talk about that. They'd rather talk about other stuff.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.